Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to a very special edition and currently accurate edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit-Down. That's right, folks. If you've been watching along as we go through our Seaman's Infinity War countdown over in the comic book corner, where we're chilling yet again today, you are aware that I was 2 videos behind because of a slight stomach bug. We were behind on the days of 14 and 13. But now, it is Sunday, April 15th, and it is currently 12 days away from Avengers Infinity War, which means we are up to number 7 on our countdown list and the first movie following phase number 1. You know the drill, folks. Pull up a chair, take a seat. Today, we are talking Iron Man 3. That's right, the first of all the Iron Man movies, not directed by Jon Favreau. This is one of the more inventive Iron Mans. They do a lot of cool stuff in it. Overall, it probably falls for me in the third spot. There's some heavy issues in this movie. This one was directed by Shane Black, who's given us films like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and The Good Guys with Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. And look, I like Shane Black. Shane Black does good things, and he does good things in this movie. But I would be lying if I told you that Jon Favreau not being in charge of this movie didn't hurt it. The Iron Man movies have had a very particular feel to them. They flow in a way that really works. Favreau being a big comic book guy himself, stays somewhat rooted and grounded in that area where nothing he did ever kind of went outside of the box too far that made you go, why would you do that? Like I said, Shane Black does some good things, but there are a couple things, one thing in particular that's big bad on my list. So, we're gonna talk Iron Man 3. You know how we roll. We start with the bad, we end with the good, so that you have a good taste in your mouth at the end of this conversation. So let's jump right into the bad. And look, the first thing that's bad about this movie is the thing that everyone knows, the thing that everyone's talked about. It was so bad, in fact, that Marvel started making these things called one-shots. These little shorts that would end up on DVDs that would attach and land in different spots in the chronological order. Maybe one day we'll do another Avengers countdown when Avengers 4 comes out, and we'll include what all those are. But I mention them because they needed to make one that landed on the Dark World DVD to clean up a major issue that this movie starts. Now, in the context of the story, it functions correctly. It's actually a kind of a nice twist and kind of plays into a puppet kind of master scenario. But good God, man. I mean, we were worried about this character as soon as trailers started coming out, and we realized that Ben Kingsley was going to be playing the Mandarin. Now, that in itself should tell you the first problem. I mean, the Mandarin probably shouldn't be a British guy. We see that, but then you're like, okay, wait. They're tweaking it, like back when Iron Man was being written, there was a lot of stuff going on in Asia. War-wise, and okay, it made sense to make one of the bad guys from Asia, and we'll have him be the Mandarin. That's fine. So, okay, we're updating it, right? Like, we had the 10 rings symbols kind of pop up in the first Iron Man when Tony gets kidnapped. So we know, okay, we've shifted the 10 rings into a terrorist organization that's somewhere in the Middle East. Totally fine. I don't know why you would continue to call him the Mandarin if that's the route you're going to go. But okay, like, we'll live with it, all right? It would be hard to work in the Mandarin in a way that would make sense. This makes sense. And we watch the movie, and it's kind of working, right? They're playing, and they're hitting all the buttons that you need to hit in a terrorist storyline. Although that's a very tricky place to go, and they don't really cross any inappropriate lines. But always, terrorism, especially here, where we've been affected. I mean, I live in Jersey, so right next to New York. Anytime terrorism is kind of addressed in these types of movies, especially in a superhero movie, somewhere you don't necessarily expect it always. But they've always handled it classy, and they do so here as well. But then we get to the back end of the movie, and we find out all along Aldrich Killian is the man pulling all the strings, and good old the Mandarin is actually a British actor named Trevor Slattery. Like I said, in the context of the story in the film, it works. It's not a terrible twist. But when you're talking Iron Man, and you were talking like the quintessential bad guy for Iron Man is the Mandarin, they destroy the concept of that character in this movie, so much so that they had to make a short that landed on a DVD where a guy comes in to sit down and talk to Slattery in a prison. Now, granted, Thor: The Dark World is like years down the road from this one. It's like, well, no, I guess no, it's probably in the same year. But by the time it lands on the DVD, you're like 2 years removed from this movie already. But the guy who comes in has a 10 Rings tattoo and confirms that the actual Mandarin does exist in the MCU. Okay, we can kind of back off and go, not a big deal. No, I'm not going to do that, because right from the get-go, if Jon Favreau was in charge of this movie, I bet you Jon Favreau would have gone, well, that's dumb. Someone needed to say that from the get-go. You wanted to create a fictional terrorist character for Aldrich Killian to manipulate? Go for it. Why we had to use the Mandarin, I'll never know. Which is one of the major reasons, besides the fact that I love Downey as Iron Man so much, that I am constantly hoping that Iron Man survives all of the Infinity War and Avengers 4 stuff and comes out the back end so that he can get one more movie. Look, and I realized this too while I was watching the movies chronologically. This story is the Avengers story is very much so Tony's story more than anyone else. The first character to get 3 movies. He's been the central focal point in most of the storylines. He holds a lot of the key moments. Yes, Cap is just as big, and Thor, obviously. They're the big 3, but Iron Man is our central focus. And to take the most iconic of his villains and decimate him the way they do in the movie. Look, like I said, it works in the story, so make it a random guy. Call him whatever you want to call him. The Mandarin was just the wrong choice. Especially when the storyline is extremis-based, and there is a comic book story that involves Aldrich Killian, and Maya Hansen, and AIM, and Extremis, and the Mandarin, and instead we get something that's just totally not comic book related, and it drove me nuts, and it's the biggest problem with the movie, always will be the biggest problem with this movie, and it's the thing I think that aggravates most fans, especially those of Iron Man. Because look, I don't like seeing Downey in bad movies ever, and Downey is fantastic in this movie. This, like I said, this is one of the more inventive Iron Mans. This could have been something that jumped Iron Man 2 for me in the list if it doesn't put the Mandarin into the movie. Yes, I was super happy when the short came out on Thor: The Dark World's DVD, and we got to find out that the Mandarin still exists, and that's why I want Tony to get a send-off movie. Tony, he's been the focal point of the universe from day one. So if there's anybody that deserves a 4th movie, and it certainly feels like Thor's gonna get one now, you gotta find a way to give Tony the walk-off he deserves. Because Iron Man 3 was not it. And maybe the Avengers, the way they write it, it could be. But the send-off he deserves his own movie. He deserves to fight the actual Mandarin. And kind of give him a Logan send-off. Where maybe he dies, and we upload his consciousness into a computer so that we can always use Downey Jr.'s voice and just digitally create something that looks like him. Kind of like in the comics. Take notes, Marvel, I hope you're watching. Because that I would love to see, man. I would love that. You could do the same dynamic, man. You get like the person who's gonna take over for him, kind of like in Logan. You could do something. Oh man, I'm getting off track on hypotheticals that would just be amazing. But yes, look, it's the biggest problem in this movie. There are other things that pop up. I don't want to dwell in the bad. So let's just talk about Iron Man 3 and what's good in it. Like I said, it's the most inventive of all the Iron Mans. At this point, and I like the story, right? I didn't like that Iron Man 2 went to depressed, sick, dying Tony after he just had become Iron Man. We wanted to see Downey have some fun. This one, he is dealing with some severe post-traumatic stress. He starts having anxiety attacks, something he's never had before. All stemming from the New York event. Like I said, it's the first movie to start off Phase 2 is Iron Man, and he, I think, emotionally took the biggest toll. I mean, flying up into that portal, landing somewhere in the universe in outer space that's not ours, and then crashing back down the way he did, amongst seeing everything else that he saw, I mean, it's probably the most death and destruction he's seen as a hero. It just add that on to all the other things that he's seen. It's gotten to a point where it's too much, and I'm totally cool with the post-traumatic stress disorder Tony. Downey is amazing. Every time he has like a panic attack freak out in the movie, you buy it, man. Like he acts it so well. Like I said, Downey, of any of the guys, owns Tony Stark in a way where we all believe that Tony Stark is actually Robert Downey Jr. and vice versa. So to give him something different to play around with as an actor was so cool to see. And on top of that, they gave him one more thing that was different, and it was such a cool element, giving him a kid to work off of. And this is really something that was kind of, I think, the stepping stones to making Tony the mentor for Spider-Man. He ends up, there are these terrorist attacks, right? And he's trying to figure out where they're coming from or how they're stemming. So there's all these explosions, and he goes to Jarvis, like, eliminate all of the ones that have been named and claimed by the Mandarin. And there are 3. And the one in Tennessee is the one that grabs his attention because it's a military vet. And basically how he gets here is there is one of these attacks that Happy happens to be involved in. Happy's following this guy who's kind of been shady. And then there's, one of these extremist patients blows up. Happy takes the brunt of it, finds out that there were these military tags. The other thing I said, inventive, right? This whole movie's inventive. The hologram images that Tony works with this time are amazing. He's able to actually lay out the entire crime scene digitally, walk around, and he finds dog tags, but there's no military members listed on the death certificates of all the people that died in the attack. And there's no bomb fragments. That's the big mystery in the movie. We all get to find out that it's because the extremist patients are basically time bombs if they're not regulated correctly. So because Happy is involved, Tony starts digging further and wants to find something that connects to military members. They wipe out all the things. He finds a spot in Tennessee that predates the Mandarin attacks that involved a military member. So he wants to investigate that, and then his suit kind of malfunctions, shoots him to Tennessee in the middle of this huge action sequence at Tony's house that we'll talk about. But I want to talk about this kid first because it's the best part of what Downey does. So we'll jump a little out of order, if you will. But so what happens is Jarvis starts malfunctioning, and when Tony hits the buttons to send him out of the water so he doesn't drown, instead of taking him right out, Tony goes unconscious and doesn't land right outside of his house. He ends up at the address that he was investigating in Tennessee. His suit is destroyed from the fallout of that sequence, and he ends up dragging it into like kind of a barn shack, and this kid stumbles in. It turns out that he's kind of on this farm near where this kid lives, and the kid uses this as kind of his workshop. And the dynamic of Tony and the kid is brilliant. It's my favorite thing in the movie. Every time they're on screen, you have a real good chunk of kind of like this buddy. There's a lot of buddy cop stuff in this movie that works really well. Tony and Rhodes have some stuff, and Tony and this kid, they're kind of like detectives together, starting to figure it out. And Tony, he like, it's the thing I love the most about the character and the way Downey portrays him. He does this thing where it's like he gets kind of attached to this kid, and because he's getting attached, he kind of cuts it, right? So like the kid kind of pokes questions at him and gets him to like freak out, and by saying New York a bunch of times because he's asking all these questions early, and Tony has like a panic attack. Later on, they're talking. Kid's like, "Well, I didn't even mention New York." He's like, "You said New York right now," and then boom, panic attack. But it's just this awesome relationship because Tony connects with him because the kid is like a mechanic. He's building his own things. He builds his own potato gun, and it develops this cool relationship between them where they're constantly both helping each other. The kid saves Tony. Tony saves the kid. They have a nice back and forth about that right before Tony finally leaves. But he gives the kid like major responsibilities, like watch the suit. Like when Tony finally figures out where he has to go after that, he leaves the suit with the kid. And at the end of the movie, he gives you this nice bit where he without the kid knowing, went back to Tennessee after everything's over, redoes the entire workshop with all this updated technology, kind of leaves a little note that says, a little upgrade, from the mechanic. He signs at the mechanic. It's really cool. And I just love that aspect. Even though he doesn't ever let himself completely go in on it, you saw the building blocks to what lead to him and Spider-Man hooking up in Homecoming, and why that works so well. It was such a cool, very much like the post-traumatic stress stuff, a new place for Tony to play around in. Working with a kid in a direct way for a guy who didn't really have that kind of relationship with his dad, right? Like, his dad could have done that with him, and it doesn't ever seem like that happened. It's just a cool moment. I really loved it. There's that, right? And then inventive-wise, the suits. What we come to find out in this one is post-New York, Tony has just been obsessing in side projects, right? It's a big kind of wedge in his relationship with Pepper right now, where she wants date nights, and Tony will do things like have the suit walking around that he's controlling from downstairs. So it's like he's standing there for date night. In reality, he had already eaten because he's working on more and more suits. And Pepper thinks he's probably around Mark 8 or 9, and he's up to 42. He's made so many different kinds of suits that can do all these different things. And it starts with Mark 42, which Tony has genetically kind of formed to his genetics, where he can go like this and it'll shoot the suit onto another person. He does that to save Pepper after the Mandarin's attack. I guess we're jumping all over the place, right? So it don't matter. There's this amazing sequence in Tony's house. Following what happens to Happy, Tony's taking everything super, super personally. And he basically says to the Mandarin, I'm not running from you. You know where I am. Heck, here's my address. Come get me. Now, what he doesn't know is that in reality, it's Aldrich Killian, who he met way back in 1999. That's where the movie opens, which is kind of cool. We get to see Happy with long hair and an earring, and Tony looking super cool. And the other thing I noticed, because Favreau's not directing, ton of lines in this movie. They gave him a ton before they knocked him out unconscious for forever. But back in 99, he met Aldrich Killian, and what he doesn't realize is that's who's stemming all of this. It's why it's all directed at Tony, because he has this grudge. Amazing sequence where they're in the house and Tony's kind of arguing with Pepper, and Maya has showed up, who Tony slept with once, left a genetic coding sequence on the back of a card when he was drunk that started the whole extremis process for Maya. She ended up in the AIM think tank with Aldrich, and boom, there you go. So they're all there. They blow up the whole house. The sequence is amazing. You're just seeing all these explosions, the way the house is collapsing, and this is really where you start to see Tony tries to put the suit on in the beginning, where he's like, boom, come on to me, and it comes in small pieces, and we get this, really funny scene of Tony getting the suit on. But in the middle of this, he's kind of perfected it. He sends the suit on to Pepper to save Pepper and Maya, and then once Pepper's clear, Jarvis says okay, and Tony, whoosh, the suit flies back onto him, and he gets taken underground, and that's eventually what sends him to Tennessee. So the way the Mark 42 works is so cool, man. Tony can just be like, come to me, and he has this really inventive scene where he's been kidnapped, and when he finally gets out, he has a thing in his ears so he can always contact Jarvis, finds out where the suit is up and functional, has it come from all the way from Tennessee to where he is, and it takes a while to get there. Only a foot and a hand come out. And it leads to this awesome sequence where he's fighting 2 or 3 people, and he's flying, but having to balance himself by blasting his foot blaster and his hand blaster, and he's doing all these cool-looking things, and then he's like, where's the suit? And he can't get out of the door, and the kid unlocks it, flies out, eventually, boom, Iron Man, all in the suit. And the finale sequence, too. It's this, like I said, there's this buddy cop bit that him and Rhodes go through down the back stretch of the movie, and they just use all these different suits, man. You see the prototype Hulkbuster shows up, you see a suit that can break off in different pieces and come back together. Obviously the Mark 42 kind of does stuff like that. Just getting to watch all the suits do all these different things was fascinating and just really cool to watch. Oh, and there's another sequence where like Tony is trying to save the president. All these people get sucked out of the plane, and there's like 14 people, and he's like, driver's like, you can carry four. And he does this thing where he calls it monkeys in a barrel. He grabs one person, flies around, that person grabs a person, and the next person grabs a person. The next thing you know, he's got 14 people, and he's holding on to them while he's flying and just slowly lowers them into the ocean. So that they're all safe. Like, just really cool, just cool Iron Man moment after cool Iron Man moment after cool Iron Man moment. It's the thing that works the best in this movie, and anything that Tony is doing. The other thing I also love in this film, Rhodey's back, doing all the Rhodey things that he's used to, and once again, Rhodes can't hold on to his suit or the control of his suit. The thing with the Extremis patients is the Extremis virus. The way it works, if like you have if you're an amputee or things, it can regenerate your body. But if it's not regulated, they have to take these things to regulate it so that you don't explode. But basically, if you don't, you explode. But if you have control of it, you can cause intense heat just through your hands and touch. And when Iron Patriot, that's the other cool thing about Rhodey, he is Iron Patriot in this movie. They take War Machine and just give him a paint job. And they even make jokes about the fact that it's the same suit, just painted different. But he kind of runs into an Extremis patient. They grab onto him and it shuts him down. He's just stuck in the Iron Patriot for a while. And when he finally does allow himself to get out, and he starts kicking some ass and helps out Tony and stuff, you get this cool buddy cop bit where Tony and Rhodes, neither one have a suit, because the president is stuck and hanging. He's been kidnapped and he's in the Iron Patriot. So you have this cool sequence where the two of them are kind of going about. They have guns. Tony like tries to shoot a light out, and Rhodes looks at him and is like, "What is wrong?" He's like, "Hey, you're asking me to shoot a light, not a person. I can't shoot a light on one shot." Rhodes gets up, takes the light out. There's just tons of awesome Rhodey and Tony moments where they're Rhodes and Tony. They're not, War Machine and Cap or an Iron Man. No Cap appearances in this movie. The Iron Patriot had me thinking that way with the red, white, and blue. But yeah, man, just like these really awesome moments that they're running, and then it's all in the finale. So Tony starts jumping and hopping into different suits. Just constantly telling drivers, like, give me a suit, give me a suit. Meanwhile, Rhodes, when they break off, Rhodes goes and saves the president. Tony's trying to save Pepper. I love their dynamic even more so in this movie. So glad that Rhodes has been pulled into the full fold so that we keep saying Tony and Rhodes and all these other appearances, because this is it, man. I mean, we're 7 movies in and we've gotten 3 Iron Man movies already. Crazy to think about all these years down the road that all the Iron Man stuff was right up front early. But yeah, like I love the inventiveness of using the suits and the way Tony can jump out of one and into another. It's just awesome. But that also all kind of built into the PTSD stuff. That was what his focus was. He just had to put all his time into his suits. And again, it's another one of these growing movies where Tony goes from one place and ends in another. And the place he ends in this movie is a place where he's okay blowing all of them up. He owes Pepper, obviously, like this big apology toward the end. And they're hugging and all. He's like, yeah, no, the clean slate protocol, run it. And they all start blowing up, and it's kind of like fireworks, and it makes Pepper happy because he's kind of given that aspect up. He even goes so far to have actual surgery to get the shard removed, so that the arc reactor is no longer a thing. He throws that into the water. That was something I didn't really like. It was something that it's a defining characteristic in Iron Man, and now we're removing it. Granted, he doesn't need it, but it was an odd way to go. But at the same time, it does kind of close this Tony story really nicely. Now, anytime Tony pops up, he's just doing Iron Man things. The Extremis stuff is really cool in the movie. Like I said, once you get past all of the Mandarin stuff, and you're just focused on Aldrich Killian, Aldrich he's a fairly decent villain. He's crazy. He's got a legit motivation and is great for Tony. Like Tony was like, hey, meet me on the roof, we'll talk. And Tony never expected that, and that kind of sparked this guy to go on his way. He has a relationship with Pepper from the past. So when he shows up, boom, it gives him a target other than Tony. I can attack Tony by getting Pepper. And his whole concept is to, kidnap Pepper and then load her with the Extremis virus. Because he's in love with her. So there are these cool elements to Aldrich, and I like Aldrich. He's menacing. He has a great action sequence fight with Tony, where we get a couple fake deaths, and he keeps coming back as the Extremis. puts them together. I mean, he can do crazy things like breathe fire, and he can chop iron in half if he lets his hands get hot enough. So you get this cool sequence. Aldrich is played by Guy Pearce. Guy Pearce looks phenomenal in the film. Maya Hansen, who works with inside AIM, but she seems like she's not a part of it. Boom, twist. She is. The reason people are going after Tony is because the formula he gave her when he was drunk started it, and it wasn't working right. He could perfect it. And Tony gets to her in a way where Maya's like, he's like, Maya, this isn't who you are. Like, your initial goal was to help save people, not cause terror. And that hits her, and she, falls back to who she is, and that leads to Aldrich to kill her. She's like, you can't kill me. Like, you need me. Kills her. And that's the kind of bad that Aldrich is. And like I said, I love the fact that he's the one manipulating Mandarin. I just hate that it's the Mandarin that he's manipulating. The concept worked so well. Him being the big puppeteer. And what's nice is he's in the whole movie, and you kind of get the feeling that he's bad, and it comes out earlier. Right? A lot of these Iron Man movies, we've had one guy at the front and then something different at the back. So we don't get that. So that looks, that works really well. I love this story line for Tony. Like I said, the whole PTSD and him having to deal with New York was huge for me, and it was something that I think the character needed, and it kind of created this whole version now of Tony that can go forward and be who we need Tony to be in all of the movies that he's popping up in since. As always, Gwyneth Paltrow, fantastic as Pepper. They kind of give her some stuff to do. Like I said, she gets to wear the Iron Man suit once, and she saves Maya. She saves Tony. She has a couple moments where she puts like the helmet on to get messages and stuff. But she shines, man. I was so pumped for Pepper to get the moment she gets at the end, because Tony's like saving. Boom, Aldrich comes up, and she starts using we do a fake out with Pepper too. Where she's like falling off a ledge, and Tony's like, you gotta let go and grab, I'll catch you. And he doesn't. She falls into the fire, and it hits, man, emotionally. I remember the first time it was like, they just killed Pepper. And like in front of Tony, like it's Tony's fault he couldn't grab her. But because of the extremis virus, as we learn, after Aldrich comes back, the first time Tony blows him up, he attaches the suit to him and has him pinned, and then it's like, all right, detonate, mark, whatever, and blows him up, but he comes back. And once that happens, you go, oh wait, Pepper could come back. And right when Tony looks like he's in the most trouble, Pepper comes out of nowhere and saves the day, and she's so badass. Oh man, it just made you think about the potential of what Pepper could do in another Iron Man movie. Unfortunately, Gwyneth backed out. And who knows, if we have another Iron Man movie, maybe she'd come back at this point. But, a lot of the female counterparts have kind of backed out of the movies. Natalie Portman did the same thing. I don't want to do anymore. That's why neither one of them are in Avengers 2. And they make a joke about that we'll talk about down the road. But yeah, it was like you saw a glimpse of something that could happen. And again, it's another one of the reasons I want Tony to get a fourth movie, because there are all these little things that are out there in his world that I would love to see cleaned up and acted. Because Gwyneth Paltrow being a kick-ass hero, awesome. Like I said, Happy, played by good old Jon Favreau, fantastic. I like that he got more lines this movie. He has some real good humor. Just jokes that surround him. And the 1999 version of him is just hysterical. The folks who play the extremis patients, one being James Badge Dale, who's very good, and Stephanie Zostak, who has one of the coolest scenes with Tony. They're in Tennessee, and they're in kind of like a restaurant. She's like shooting at him, he hides. And leads to this moment the action is awesome. They have this scene where they're kind of mirroring each other for a minute, flying back and forth on a countertop thing. Awesome. So well choreographed. But the moment in that scene that just did it for me, and against the humor, that always gets me. He sends some grease in there, sets everything on fire where she is, and she comes walking out, and he goes, well, you walked right into this one, but I've definitely had hotter dates than you. And she goes, a cheap a cheap trick, and a cheesy pickup line or a cheesy one-liner. Is that all? Like that's all you got? Tony goes, "You could name my that could be the name of my autobiography." So I love that Tony, who constantly is dropping one-liners, even in his own world, in his own movie, points out the fact that, yeah, man, cheap tricks and one-liners, that's my gig. So good. There's so many great things in here and it's almost one of those. I just wish the Mandarin character was taken out. Ben Kingsley does an awesome job. Definitely helps Ben Kingsley in the fact that he wasn't trying to play a Middle Eastern or an Asian person, that he was, in fact, a British actor. Tons of comedy there. When they find him, finally, they track him down, Tony goes in, and he's like, got all these women all over the place. He's nodding out from all the drugs and things that he's doing. At one point, he nods out, and he has a beer here, and someone makes a loud noise. He comes back, just starts drinking the beer. Kingsley's hysterical when you find all that out. Like I said, it's a great twist, just wrong character. But if you remove that element, man, this is a really good Iron Man flick, man. Like I said, I wish Favreau would have directed it, because I think if Favreau was directing it, not that Shane Black did tons of bad stuff. Like I said, not a ton of bad to talk about. But I think Favreau directing it, you would have had more of that kind of comic book, like, hey, I don't know if we should do this. And that's the other thing that was kind of strange and crazy, is that came from Kevin Feige, who's been perfect to this point. Now, granted, when they dropped that short, it's not that he messes up anything, right? Because we do eventually establish that the Mandarin and the Ten Rings, we know the Ten Rings exist, and we establish that the Mandarin exists, and I guess to some degree it would make sense for it to be the Ten Rings, because if Aldrich was paying attention, he would know that's who he was kidnapped by. So if that's the leader of the Ten Rings, that could kind of get to Tony's attention. I've just talked myself into not hating it as much as I normally do. And like I said, Kevin Feige doesn't do anything wrong, because Ben Kingsley plays Trevor Slattery, not the Mandarin. But it's just an odd choice to utilize that. And maybe someone like Favreau, if he had the power, could have been like, hey, Kev, is it cool if we maybe just made him a generic terrorist that's like leading the Ten Rings, and then maybe later on we could always drop the Mandarin if we do another Iron Man. I don't know. So, I mean, there's that. But like I said, this one, you take that out, I mean, Tony's back doing great stuff. He's in the best shape of his life, I think, for this movie. I mean, this version of Downey, he is in great shape in Iron Man 3. But yeah, the visuals are fantastic. The action sequences are jam-packed, and they're huge. I think that was the big thing, like we had some big action sequences, and then boom, like Avengers took the size of those and like double, tripled them. Iron Man 3 kind of builds off the Avengers, and let's have this huge, like 15-20 minute end set piece. Let's have this big, like 5-minute scene in the middle that's small but awesome and cool. Let's have this elaborate, just these one thing after another. It was more of a roller coaster ride than kind of stopping, but we do stop for a real good chunk out in Tennessee, and we get tons of cool stuff with Tony and the kid. I love the character development and the way they took Tony for this movie. I thought it was great, and just really sets up everything that Tony does going forward, like I said before. So overall, Iron Man 3 probably lands in the rankings as third of the Iron Man movies. I would rank them 1, 2, 3 in the order they came out, and it could have very easily hopped to if the Mandarin's not in the movie. It's too big of a deal for me to not say it's not a major blow, because even now, all these years later, I mean, this one came out way back in 2013, so now here we are 5 years later, and it still drives me nuts that the Mandarin is called the Mandarin in the movie, because, like I said, the concept works, just the wrong character. Take that out, you got yourself a pretty awesome Iron Man movie. I mean, Downey's back doing great Tony things, Rhodes is back, everybody's back doing their thing, and you get these awesome set pieces and like some really interesting story work for Tony trying to deal. And then the thing I keep forgetting, I've like thought about it 3 or 4 times while I've been talking to you guys, and I keep forgetting to mention it, is the movie opens with a voiceover, and the only time we've ever seen that happen is in Thor, where Odin starts talking before the movie starts. And we get that here, and it happens throughout the entire movie, right? It's not like just the beginning voiceover that leads into something. You hear it throughout the whole movie, and every time it pops up, I'm just like, God, I don't like this like concept. And it's one of those things I forgot about watching it this time. I was like, God, man, the voiceovers, why are they here? Beautiful moment to end the film. You get through the first kind of opening sequence, cool credits, which are awesome. The credits, the animated credits at the back end are kind of comic booky and cool. But then we get this mid-credit scene where we see Tony talking to Bruce Banner. And that's what the voiceovers are. The voiceovers are him telling this story to Bruce, and Bruce is passed out sleeping at the end of the movie. I got to that and I was like, okay, I like the voiceovers because that was hysterical. And, Ruffalo is like, hey man, this is not my gig. I'm not that kind of doctor. Perfect way to cap off Iron Man 3. Perfect way and place to stop this video. That's all I gotta say about Iron Man 3. Really enjoyed it. A lot of fun. Although one major problem that kind of is a detriment to the movie. So hit those comments. It's your turn to talk. Hit the comments. Let me know what you thought of the movie, what you thought of Iron Man 3, what you thought about the Mandarin, what you thought about Aldrich. Let me know everything down in the comments. If you didn't see the movie, again, what are you doing? I'm spoiling real bad. Go watch it. Let me know what you think. Hit those comments. If you like the video, you like what I said, hit that thumbs up button. Hit the comments there. Let me know everything. If you're not part of the squad, hit the subscribe button and the little bell so you get an alert every time I drop a new video, including every new Seaman's Avengers Infinity War countdown vids. For the Seaman Cinema Sit Down, I am the Seaman. I am signing off. Peace!